So what's going on, big dog? What's going on in life?
Yeah, I think finding a place to even begin what's going on in my life is a little bit of a challenge. I got a lot going on right now. I think most importantly, trying to figure out like the foundation of my recovery personally.
Okay.
I feel like really every year something happens where it's like, having to reanalyze like, what is my recovery?
Okay.
And, what it really comes back to is, the stuff that I originally started on. Going to meetings,
Right.
service work, higher power.
You have to recommit to your foundation every year. Me
Absolutely.
too. I mean, me too. I think that's probably part of the process for everybody.
Yeah. And so, events recently, I lost someone extremely close.
To addiction?
No.
Okay.
No. Old age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Old age, and probably the closest person I could lose. And it's interesting because, sticking around for a little bit of time, there's a few 4 steps that I've done.
Yeah.
And of course you got the category of reservations. And I remember when I first got sober.
You were like, if this person dies, I'm going out.
Oh, yeah. And the interesting thing is, it wasn't just on my first 4 step. It's been on all my 4 steps.
Okay.
So, of course this person goes, and interesting thing is I'm still here.
Yeah.
I remember, I went to their funeral on last Wednesday, and, I came back into town, and, in my head, I'm justifying all these reasons why I shouldn't go to a meeting.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Right.
Like, why would I not go to a meeting?
Right.
But yeah, wow, man, like it really has been an interesting perspective shift in what I have going on and what I value.
Yeah.
I don't have much family. And so, that's something that it's really incredible to be able to have a family in recovery.
Yeah.
I have the freedom to choose who I want and surround myself with.
Yeah.
And I know 5-6 years ago that was not an option. It was people in the hood, people in the dope house, whoever was around to get me what I needed, that's who I surrounded myself with. And it's like, wow, I have the opportunity today to really decide what my life looks like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, man, I think, I'm particularly in a pretty interesting time right now where, I've never lost anyone, close. Of course, being in recovery, there's people like friendships where, people go back out and find that path for themselves, and, maybe the suffering is too great and, they got to move on.
Yeah.
But family-wise, it's never been anyone. So.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough too, like, was it like a grandparent?
Yeah, it was my grandma.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was, really influential to my whole path and my whole life, and yeah.
I'm sorry, man.
It's all right.
It is and it's not, right? It's like, God, it's like I'm so bad at dealing with death. That's like the one thing that's I mean, obviously it should be, really, I guess. It's just like so hard to lose people, man, and just to never be able to talk to them again, that feeling of, my grandfather died when I was like 8 years old, but I had kind of lived with him my whole life because it was me and him and my dad that lived together.
Wow.
So it was like losing another parent.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I had dreams about him where I would talk to him, acknowledging the fact that he had died and stuff, up until I was in like my 20s.
Wow.
I'd be dreaming about it, and he would come to me and talk to me in my dreams, and he'd be like, I remember this one time I had this crazy dream where I was like hosting a party, and there was all these people at my house, and he arrived and he was dressed like a duke, like very regal looking.
Yeah.
And I was like, hang on 1 second. And I was like running around, like trying to make sure everybody was happy at this party.
Yeah.
And he'd look at me and he'd be like, James, I have to go. And I'm like, hold on, just 1 second. You know, I'd be like running around doing all the, and like whatever I was doing was so completely trivial and meaningless in comparison to like having this opportunity to talk to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, James, I got to go. And he started to leave and he got in a horse-drawn carriage and I ran and leaped into the carriage with him. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, he's like, I got to go. And I was like, where have you been? I haven't talked to you in a long time. And he goes, well, they'll only let me come and see you once a year now. Wow. I was like, who are they? You know?
Wow.
But he was like, I don't have time to talk about all that. It was like very much like an action film. He's like, I have something to give you. And he opened up his hand and it was a little tiny diamond in the shape of a heart. And I like knocked it out of his hand. And I'm like, I don't even want that. I just want you.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the dream. I don't know what the diamond represented, you know? I mean, I think it's telling that it was in the shape of a heart. Like, clearly it was like a precious love or something. You know, it's a precious, rare stone. You know, it's a precious love. And I was like, I don't want like a diamond. I want my grandpa back, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like, you bring up the dream. I had a dream last night about it, you know, of where I'm in this situation in my dream where, you know, I'm with someone. I don't remember who it was. And they're like, you're so emotionally, you know, detached. What's going on? And, you know, in the dream, I'm justifying my behavior by, you know, my grandma passed.
Right.
And it's interesting that you bring up the dream, and I had that dream just last night.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, you look at the freedom of recovery, being able to walk through this thing and having the option, you know, of am I going to drink or use today?
Right.
Well, you know, right now the obsession has been lifted by a spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not craving, and you know, I feel like right now the world is so open. Yeah. You know, to be in this spot where it's like in the past there was two things.
Right.
It was, if I go to prison, I'm gonna get high. If my grandma dies, I'm gonna get high. And it's like both those things have passed, and it's like a free realm. It's like, you know, all this open space is kind of opened up, and it's just, yeah, man, it's just real interesting to live life right now.
Yeah, freedom.
Yeah.
You know, when you were saying like how, you know, you have to recommit to your program from time to time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the truth for so many things other than just the program too, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like every once in a while I forget that like life is magic.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get lost in the humdrum. And then I'm like, and then I have like a weird realization that like, oh, I could be like doing this completely differently.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard, God, man, I must have been on like social media or something, but what it talks about is, you know, your process. Mm-hmm. You are committing to something in your life, okay? And don't worry about what everyone else is doing. You focus on watering your grass, because the moment that you look at someone else's grass, your whole process is messed up. And that's like, it's like, wow, man. Like, you know, I'm always thinking about other people's stuff and how I can get there and get that. And like, you know, at the end of the day, it's the interesting stuff. It's like, this is what I have. Like, why would I not work towards this? You know, I got all these crazy hobbies, man. And, you know, I'm constantly finding myself consumed in these hobbies, but what other people are doing.
In the hobbies that you like.
And it's like, why? It's like, why don't I just spend that time and focus on, you know, getting better at my part? And man, I feel like that's just the human nature.
Yeah.
It's just like what we do, especially someone like me. Yeah. You know, I'm so obsessive. Yeah. You know, I'm so compulsive. You know, you take the drugs and alcohol away, I'm left with this. Yeah. and so, yeah, oh man, I just started looking at buying a house, and God, you know, I get into these cycles. I go home and I lay on the couch, and next thing I know, I'm 4 hours deep looking at houses, and all the houses I'm looking at aren't even realistic.
They're not even in your price range.
It's like, wow, what am I doing here? I'm like sitting here, I'm looking at a house that's, you know, $800,000, thinking about all the stuff I'm going to do with the rooms, and it's like, I'm not getting this house.
I mean, you could, but from what I understand right now, it is a seller's market. not a buyer's market around here, right? So now's not even the time for us.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, why am I even looking at buying?
Yeah.
But it's these ideas I have in my head.
That's actually a good question. Why are you looking at buying? Are you trying to move yourself into that next echelon of adulthood? Does that feel like what it is? Or are you craving like the stability of a home?
Yeah, I think, I've lived in the house I'm living in currently for 3.5 years. And I think like in the back of my head, I was always like, they might sell it to me.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of believing, one day, they're going to be willing to sell this house to me. Gorgeous location. I mean, like absolute best possible scenario. And I think like I finally come to terms that they're not going to sell me the house. And so it's like, all right, well, I want to, I find a lot of fulfillment in like, home projects and, painting the walls and just stuff like that. And, I want to be able to have my own space where I'm worried about the landscaping and, I want to do things to the house because it's my house.
Yeah.
So yeah, I came up with this grand idea. It's like, all right, maybe I might be ready to buy a house, and now it's like,
yeah, you might be, but you might be even more ready if you wait till it's a buyer's market again.
Yeah,
yeah, and then you're not like screwed paying for something that's never gonna retain the value. I mean, real estate's always a good investment.
Yeah,
but yeah, I know that feeling of like, okay, so how I had my truck and I got that new car.
Yeah,
I never had a car that I cared enough to take care of. Yeah. Now I like really want to take care of my car. Right. I installed a cold air intake on it. I'm going to put like a new exhaust on it. Yeah. And owning the thing that you care about and like making it your own is a completely different experience from just living in an apartment. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. You ever did you see my car when it had the tar on it?
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, I was so jazzed on my car, and I feel like now it's like, devastated.
What? I can hardly tell now. Yeah. I was looking really hard at it the other day to see if I could still see it.
It's going to get painted actually today.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
same color?
Yeah, same color.
You weren't interested in trying to? I mean, you and I have the same color car.
Yeah, I don't think insurance would have allowed me to get a new color. I think that was like one of the requisites. Is you gotta. I didn't even engage.
White is a good color anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't get as hot as other because it reflects the heat instead of like.
Yeah.
Whatever, retaining it or whatever.
Yeah.
I have the model car that I have, they have this really cool color that's basically my favorite color.
Really?
And they didn't have that one
where
I went to purchase the car.
Yeah.
I do really like this pearly white color, but that's my favorite color. So now I'm kind of obsessing about color? It's a bluish green, like an aqua green.
Here's the thing, man. Like, I remember when I bought my car, I was like, I want black, and I'm not willing to, entertain anything else. Mm-hmm. And they were like, yeah, we'll get you in a black car, but we got to order it and paint it, and it's going to be 3 months. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I just blew up my last car. It was like, I don't really have 3 months of driving a rental, and, I can't afford that. And what they had on the lot was the white one. And it was like, all right, well, the white's elegant. Like, I'm just gonna get the white one, and if for whatever reason down the road I don't like it, I'll just get it wrapped. Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm telling you now, I don't think I'll ever get, a different color car than white.
Yeah,
I'm in love with it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, because it's harder to tell that it's dirty for one.
Yeah. And I just feel like I've seen my car in black and silver and red and blue, and nothing gets me like the white.
Yeah. I do really like that blue green though. It's like my favorite color of all time. What's funny? When I got clean, I thought for the longest time my favorite color was purple. I do really like purple. Purple's a great color. But then I looked around my house one day and I was like, man, everything's this like aqua green blue color. Yeah. And then I was like, I think that's my favorite color. Huh. I think I've just been saying to myself, because I liked the idea that I liked purple more than I actually really liked the color. I realized that I didn't even know what my freaking favorite color was.
I feel like, we originally talked about like the journey and recommitting yourself to recovery, but like a huge part of that for me is like figuring out who I'm not. Mm-hmm. God, I mean, I remember when I first, entertained this idea of just worrying about who I'm not. My mind was blown. I remember for years. I mean, I've been in and out of treatment since I was 16.
Right.
And so that kind of puts you in a pretty weird spot, being that young and having to go to meetings and lockdown treatment and stuff like that. And I remember being 18 and being in a really dark spot of just like, what am I going to do? Like, I need to figure this out. Like, I'm running out of options. And one of the things that I thought was my answer was, I'm young. I just need to figure who I am. Figure out who I am. And so, then carries on a journey of trying to figure out who I am, but life's a mystery. And it's like, if I could figure out who I am at 18 years old, the world would be blown away.
Right.
People are like, yeah, I know who I am. I don't believe that. I really don't. I feel like how I am, like, I'm constantly changing. I'm not perfect. I'm learning from my mistakes, or at least trying to learn from my mistakes. A little honesty. And yeah, man, like, I was in the woods. I went to a wilderness treatment center, and, it's the middle of winter, and, it really gets you down to the bone and shaves off some of that, those walls. And I remember it got presented to me, and it was like, figure out who you're not. And I started thinking about some of the stuff that, like, I am and I wanted to be. I wanted you to see me as, like, I skateboard and I wakeboard and, I listen to music and go to festivals. I want you to see that.
Right.
It's interesting. Oh, man, I could go in forever, but it's interesting. You see people at concerts. And I'm going to get off in a tangent, I know I am. But I used to do this thing where I would take pictures at concerts and festivals. And what would be going through my mind is, I'm going to take this picture because if anyone asks me about this concert, I need to show them that I was there. And it's like, the picture's not even for me. It's beyond for me. It's for all these other people that just might ask if I was there.
That's like the essence of social media, you know?
Oh, man. And so... yeah, I'm in the woods and I'm starting to think about all these things that I want people to think about, want to identify me as, and it kind of just really smacked me over the top of the head. It's like, I could go on and on and on and on and figure out all these things I want people to think I am, but like what's really important to me is like kind of figuring out some of the stuff I don't like. Like maybe I don't like rap music, or maybe I don't like country, or maybe I don't like the rain, or maybe I don't like hot Florida weather, or maybe I don't like lasagna, or I've been saying I love lasagna my whole life. I don't even like lasagna, whatever it is, just trying to figure out some of the stuff that I'm not, and build from that. And like that's really, like, I feel like a few years in recovery, like I've really based a lot of stuff on that, because man, for so long, like I had a year sober and I had worked the 12 steps and things were going really well, but man, I'm a people pleaser. I just want everything to be okay, and I want you to like me, and that was a huge downfall in my last relapse of just trying to get everyone to like me, and I'm consumed in all these things that I don't even like myself.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I feel you, man. I think it's a symptom of the disease. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I think it's a symptom of being human.
Yeah.
I think it's a symptom of being in a society currently which is obsessed with presenting to the world and talking about everything in our lives, and being very public about what's going through our heads and what we've experienced. Yeah. Have you noticed this phenomenon of people, speaking to their deceased relatives in a Facebook post? It's really fascinating to me. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. Right. It's just really fascinating to me that people feel the need to do that. They'll say they'll be addressing their deceased loved one directly, but as their Facebook status,
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I don't know what the last thing I've posted on Facebook is, but it's something I talked to about with my therapist, and we were talking about it, and I was bringing it up. It was like, look, I I have my close circle, but like, I don't want what people know what I have going on.
Right.
And she was like, that's the thing. We're not supposed to have thousands of people know what's going on in our life. Like,
Right.
social media has kind of created that. And that's something, man, like, I just don't resonate with that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And maybe one day I'll change. That's the cool thing about, like, this whole idea of who I am is like, me today might be different tomorrow. And like, it's constantly going that way.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a hard thing to do in a real intimate relationship for some people.
Yeah.
Is accept that your partner is ever changing.
Yeah.
I think that's been an issue for me in the past. I don't know what it is. I'm not a good candidate for relationships. I just want to put that out there in case you're watching this and you think I'm great. I'm not the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I have this problem that keeps cropping up wherein my partners expect me to be the same guy I was the day before. And I'm not. I'm always changing. And I'm like, I want to try this new thing and maybe I'm going to get really into it or whatever. And I think that it's hard for people to go with that fluidity sometimes, and I don't know, I've just been thinking a lot about, I know we talked about this before I turned the camera on, and this is not for any express purpose, but I am dealing with, an addiction to relationships in my life, and I'm trying to right now learn to just be alone and get through those lonely times and not do the same thing that I do every time, which is fall massively in love with a person, devote my entire life to getting them to love me back, and then getting scared and running. Terrible pattern, really hurtful for me and for them. And I'm just trying really hard right now to just, and I do feel really good right now. And I'm noticing that one of the things that I do love about myself that was hard, it seemed to be hard for other people to love about me, is that I am changing all the time, and that I want to try new stuff, that I want to travel to all of these places and go on adventures, and I can do that stuff alone. That's fine, and not needing to be, joined at the hip with somebody.
Right. Yeah, I think, man, so coming up on 4 years and, I'm doing all this, finally I'm doing all this work and therapy that, I guess I've kind of been putting off, but, that was something specifically with my grandmas. I had all these, my parents weren't necessarily healthy attachment relationships. And so, what was explained to me was, my grandma was that secure attachment, right? And so you lose them now, and it's like trying to figure out, like, okay, like, this is gone. And I particularly, like, I'm having to go to therapy for my attachment styles because, it's come out and not the best ways. You're talking about like running and being avoidant, and then I have the anxious and the avoidant thing, and it's like, oh my God,
right. Like, I think I do too. Yeah, and
so we're working through this book, but that's something that's it's like, okay, here's the next step in my recovery. It's like I've lost my secure attachment. The only person in my life realistically, and it was a woman, and so that's more significant. And it's like, okay, well, like, now I'm left with myself. Of course I have my network and, of recovery and friends and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, well, like, here we are now, and all I want to do is be alone, and all I want to do is just sleep and rest. And it's like, okay, like, I can do that, but like, here's what's next, and it's going to come no matter what. It's kind of like the relationship thing. It's like, you can stay in this spot, and I'm guilty of it too, of just what's comfortable. But it's like the repeating thing is like, life is gonna give you the lessons you need to learn,
right?
And they're gonna keep coming.
Yeah,
and it's like, wow.
So when you say that it's gonna happen whether you want it to or not, the next thing, what do you think that next thing might be? Is there any way to plan for it? Is there any way to know what that next thing is? Are you talking about the next thing for you might be starting to have these healthy attachment relationships, and one of those is coming for you?
Yeah, I think, even at work and just trying to so like I have this window of tolerance, and what my pattern is 4, 5, and 6 is my window of tolerance where I'm comfortable. I can make decisions. I can show up for you, and all the things that a normal healthy person would do in a relationship. And what my pattern is I'm in this window of tolerance, and something happens where I get shot up into this anxious space. So now I'm anxious. I'm making decisions out of fear, that kind of stuff. And what I've naturally done is in my childhood and stuff, it's fight or flight. And I build myself up basically to a point where I'm so anxious that I just go straight down to avoidant. Mm-hmm. And so then it's like, I create all this worry, all this fear, everything's going to happen, my life's going to end, all this stuff, and then fuck it.
Yeah.
And so, that's just my pattern.
Yeah.
But, something that I'm working with my therapist is particularly recognizing those. Okay, I'm anxious. I'm fearful of this. I was about to make a decision here. Maybe I should wait. I'm feeling avoidant. I just want to be alone. It's just recognizing that it's not about, for me right now, figuring out how to solve these issues. I think it's probably something that I'm going to live with for the rest of my life. But like something that's important to me right now is just making an effort to gain a little bit of awareness around them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, me too. The other day I had Renee in here, and we were, we chatted, and she told me her story and stuff. Wow. And afterward, and it was a very vulnerable share for her, and she told me afterwards, she said, I'm not used to being on this side of the table and telling my story anymore. Yeah. I'm used to people telling me their story. Wow. And then pretty quickly we transitioned into me telling her what's going on in my life. Yeah. Like it just happened so naturally. And I was like, hey, listen, you know what? I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to like turn you into therapy mode right now, Yeah. She's like, it's fine if you want to talk about it. I was like, great. So I started, great. Yeah. So I started opening up to her. Hold on one second.
What, you got some stuck cords?
Yeah. My cord was stuck on the chair. So I started opening up to her and telling her about some of the stuff that, I've been dealing with for a long time. And the consensus by the end was, wow, you would really benefit from some therapy. And I've done therapy for like short periods of time. Yeah. And doing the 12 steps and having a sponsor that I'm accountable to, that I talk to on a semi-regular basis, I could talk to him more, has been very therapeutic for
Absolutely.
me. But what it's done is shown me the places that I'm going to need a therapist for, because he's not my therapist. Yeah. He's my friend in recovery that is kind of helping me do the steps, which is very therapeutic, by the way. Yeah. And I've grown a lot, but I'm really ready for that next phase of working on myself and doing some deep work with a therapist. Yeah. Clearly, I have a lot of trauma that I haven't, that I don't know a healthy way of dealing with yet. Yeah. So, and Renee was like, that's trauma. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, duh, right? But it didn't seem that way to me. It was just like, this is a troublesome thing from my past,
No, trust me, I get it. I'm a shredded human. It's like you took a piece of paper and it's like kind of taping back. I'm never gonna be the same,
right?
I'm taping it back. But yeah, man, like, so my therapist, we have a long history. She was my guide in wilderness the first time around, and so she's known me this whole time. I mean, she saw me from day one. I was 108 pounds, just a bag of bones, face sunken in.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. But so when it finally came time where it was like, all right, I need to reach back out. I need to do something. And it's sobriety, man. I feel like I went through so much pain and addiction, so much pain, so much darkness. But something, it's like that pain still comes up in sobriety, and it's like, I reach back out and I let her know what's going on. And it was really interesting because I've worked with her in the past on multiple occasions for multiple years. And one of the first things she says is, I knew you were going to come back.
Wow.
She was like, I knew this was going to come up.
Yeah.
But only when you're ready for it. And I was like, wow, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? And she's like, it's kind of cryptic. It's like, oh, man, like, Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. But yeah, man, it's been a hell of a journey. Just going back to therapy. I mean, I can never imagine where I'd be at in the last few months if I didn't go back. You know, it's been something that's been so important and so influential in just a small amount of time. Yeah.
That's cool that you have a long history with your therapist too, because that's so helpful, right? Like, you've seen me at this point, you've known me at this point. Like, it's hard building that new relationship with someone, especially when it costs a bunch of money. You know what I mean? And you're like, all right, hold on, let me just try to fast track you to understanding who I am, so that we can start talking about the real shit. You know?
Yeah. I think something that's interesting about that is, even in therapy, like, I feel like I have a decent understanding of what therapy is. And when I used to see her, like, maybe, like, I can't remember if it was, like, 2 or 3 years ago, it got to the point where, just like we were talking about on social media, like, I would go into therapy and only talk about stuff that I wanted her in the light that I wanted her to see me in.
Right.
I'm like, work's great, personal life's great. I'm thinking about getting a dog or just stuff like that. And, and at the same time, I got this, swept carpet, everything's under the rug, and I'm only showing her just a little bit.
Right, the whole iceberg is down there under the surface of the water.
Yeah. But now, we're starting to really get down there, and it's like, okay. But it feels good, Yeah, I do feel hopeful.
I'm hopeful too, man.
Yeah.
It's essential to maintain optimism.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to move back to LA.
Right.
And that's a city that holds a lot of painful memories for me, but it's also where I got clean.
Yeah, wow.
But it's been, the side of a years-long toxic relationship to my addiction to adoration from other people.
Wow.
So I'm trying to learn to navigate loving what I do and not having it be toxic and unhealthy for me. Because, it's been this whole year of the pandemic and stuff. I haven't been able to basically perform and do the thing that I do.
Right.
Which I think was kind of good for me, because I didn't realize that I had a toxic relationship to my career. Right. I was just giving and giving and giving and hoping and praying that this thing was going to turn into like an overnight success. Yeah. I mean, 12, 14 years into the game.
Right.
But, not performing and not receiving that adoration from people and not having people tell me constantly, you're great, you're great, you're great. You blew my mind tonight, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Has been really helpful for me to see how addicted I was to that, that energy, that feedback.
If you had to choose, and this is all hypothetical, of course, and or maybe possible, who knows? If you had to choose, would you rather be 100% theater or 100% rock star? You got to give up one. Which one are you going to choose? And don't worry about it. If all finances are covered through both of these things, everything is, everything's worked out. But you got to drop one. Which one is it going to be?
Wow. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is I would give up theater. That's my knee-jerk reaction.
But is being a rock star sustainable?
Now, when you say the word rock star, do you mean hella famous rock star?
You tell me.
Because for me, like, having a career as a touring musician versus having a career as a person who does theater is really the distinction that I was making in my mind. But if you're talking about being a hella famous rock star or a person who makes a living doing theater, that's like vastly different to me. Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to be hella famous. Yeah. I used to want to. There's a part of me that wants to. I think the main reason that that's appealing to me is because I really want people to hear my music. I want people to show up at my shows without me having to beg people to come to my shows. I'd like people to just show up at my shows. That's the main thing. And it's not that I'm like, that I want to avoid the work of hustling for my career, because I've done that for a very long time. It's that I don't want to have to beg people to come to shows anymore. I would like for people to just show up to shows, a venue to know, okay, he's going to bring people. We can pay him, you know, $1,000 to play a couple hour set. And people are going to sit there and be quiet and listen because they appreciate and respect the things that I create. That's all I want. I want that so bad.
Yeah. Oh, man, I get that. So I started building these synthesizers, and they're so complicated and so fast. And, you know, I suck so bad. Like, I'm struggling learning them. But so I played a show 3 weeks ago. And so that was something that was so enticing, is having like 100 people to play for, and it's like, wow, I just want more and more and more. I don't want to have to ask anyone.
Right.
I just want to be at my house, start patching patching everything up, make a melody, and everyone just watches. You know, it's stuff like that. But yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's all I've ever wanted. I just want people to show up at my shows, and you know, I want my career to chase me back a little bit. I've been chasing this career for so long. And that may not happen for a while. But the thing that I've realized over this last year is that I can be successful in a really, really wide array of different things. So like if I want to become something else, learn a different skill, if I want to transition and spend some time doing something else, I can be successful at that, you know, because in my mind for the longest time I was like, it's art or nothing. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But you have to subsidize yourself as an artist nowadays, because back in the day, someone might fund your life as an artist. They might go, you're great, I'm going to be your patron of the arts, and they're going to subsidize you and pay you to be an artist and to create art. That doesn't really happen anymore. You know, so nowadays you have to subsidize yourself. So you might have to wait tables to do the thing that you love. You know, you might have to get a different job or a career. And I was at odds with that for the longest time. Because I really just want to focus my energy on creating. You know, I would like to wake up in the morning and sit down in front of the pen and paper and create all day long and play my guitar and grow my skills in that department. And I think that knowing that that's what the goal is, and having, you know, singular focus and having strong intentions makes that more possible. You know?
I mean, like that. I forgot what it was. This had to be months ago when the lottery was like a bunch of money. It was like billions of dollars. And someone, I guess it was Sam upstairs, he had asked me, he was like, if you win, would you come to work tomorrow? I was like, yeah, I'll come to work tomorrow. So that feels decent. It's good. But yeah, man, I totally get that. I mean, I have so many hobbies. I do so much, and you know, I always think about it. It's like, all right, is it time to really start narrowing down some of these and putting in, you know, a little bit more extra work into some of these? And you know, I think it's so interesting to be able to live a life and just be like, at any day I have a group of friends to do a hobby with, and that group is so different. And that's something that I really like. You know, I like I said previously, like I don't have a lot of family, so I get to kind of choose what that looks like.
Right.
And you know, that's something that I really like.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like my hobbies are not just hobbies. It feels like do or die passions. You know, like if I don't do jujitsu a certain number of times per week, I feel bad, you know, and I don't think that that's good per se. I mean, I think it's what makes me to a certain degree, you know, successful, you know, that I can be good at multiple things. I'm not that great at jujitsu. I'm learning all the time, but you know, my level of commitment to that is pretty strong. And sometimes I wonder, like, I'm like, my childhood dream is not to be good at jujitsu. So why do I feel like this like achy, if I don't do it, I'm not doing enough type feeling? Like, should I maybe, like you said, taper back a little bit on the jujitsu and just focus on my childhood dream and make my dream come true? Or do I want to live a more balanced life and have many things I'm passionate about and just be, you know, and it's like, man, I'm a jack of all trades, you know? I think that I have, because of the time that I've spent on stage, like I have so much stage time that I have my 10,000 hours as a performer. And so that's my main thing. But I have all this time. I mean, I have tons of things that I'm very passionate about,
Yeah.
or at least a handful of things, you know,
Yeah.
performing, the gym, recovery,
Yeah.
jujitsu, and, you know, making music, you know,
Yeah.
so it's, I don't have a lot of time for, so when people want to hang out with me, I'm like, are we doing the same thing? Are we doing the stuff that I'm interested in? Because otherwise it's kind of hard for me to, like if someone wants to do something that I'm not that into, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work out in the long run.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I feel the same way. You know, there's so many people that I hold dear to, but, you know, I feel like I'm so consumed in a lot of the hobbies that I'm doing right now that we just never get around to seeing each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can relate to that, man. It's interesting you bring that up. I feel like I haven't thought about that in a while.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere I would be at. Wouldn't be at it, you know, if I was getting high for sure. That's something that it's a repetitive theme coming up. It's like all this stuff, but really taking a second and being grateful for the stuff that I can acknowledge.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, I can be grateful. It's like, man, I went through this period in sobriety where I was having these like using dreams, and it was like the ultimate dose of gratitude. I would wake up and be just so grateful that I was still sober. And
you're like,
I'd be
oh,
on my
thank God.
hands and knees and just, wow, you know, I can't believe I'm here. You know, I got a year, 2 years, 3 years, you know, however long. And you know, I'm going to do everything right today. I'm going to read, I'm going to pray, I'm going to meditate.
Yeah.
And, you know, I dive really into it for 5 minutes, and as soon as that 5 minutes of fear and that dose of gratitude is gone, I'm right back to the same bullshit. And yeah.
Jeremy's been texting me a gratitude list every morning.
I get those.
Do you text him back?
No, I don't text him back.
I do it. Do it.
I text him back. It kind of just depends. Like when the quote is real, like I resonate with it a lot. I'm like, solid, fire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I text him
like
back a
that.
gratitude list.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's been good for me because it's
I see,
every
I'm not
morning.
getting- I'm not getting the gratitude list. I get the quotes.
Oh, just the quote?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, snaps.
Yeah.
Well, then we're going to remedy that situation.
Yeah,
We're going to text
get
him
the
up and be like,
gratitude list.
I need to be on your gratitude list.
Yeah.
So I have this concept that's been kind of dancing around in my head. When you said, you know, I'm going to do everything right today. I'm going to pray. I'm going to meditate, read. I think that all of us, first of all, I love hearing why somebody loves something because I think that that's like the ultimate way to learn to love it as they love it. You know, if someone shows you a song that they love and they go, listen to the bass line right here, and they're really into it, it's like, it makes you appreciate that bass line. Or when someone shows you like, you know, or someone shows you like a delicious cup of coffee and they're talking and they're like one of those people that's like really into, you know, the just almost like the equivalent of a vintner, like someone that shows you how to drink wine properly or whatever. I don't even know if that's the correct term, but there's like a term for those people. But when someone shows you how to enjoy something and tells you what they love about it, it helps you love it, right? And you're talking about, I'm going to do everything right today. I'm going to pray today. I think that all of us are maybe like we have like one piece of the puzzle of like if I describe to you what I think God is or what I think the higher power is or what the universe is and how it works, that's one more little piece of the puzzle. That's one more piece of information because none of us is right. You know, none of us is all the way right. There's no possible way that any of us is all the way right. So I have to hear what you think it is and why you love it. And that helps me love it from my perspective. Because the only place that I'm going to be able to experience life, the universe, God, is from my perspective. No matter how many people...
It's like the group conscious of it, of 12-step meetings.
So I'm curious, what do you think about G.O.D.? You down with G.O.D.?
Yeah, I think, man, I've gone through crazy changes in visualizing and conceptualizing higher powers and recovery. You know, I had mentioned briefly that, you know, I had a few past attempts at recovery and man, my progression of God and higher power and spirituality has just transformed from 16 to 25.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, man. So I used to go to a Christian school, and they actually put the fear of God in me. And when I first got into recovery, I'd probably say, I was really into having everything clearly defined. Like, my God looked like this, and this is where they show up, and this everything was on paper. I could write it down, tell you a story.
I wanted to be able to draw a picture of it.
But the older I got and the more pain I experienced, things kind of dissolved, and I think that there was times when, early on when I was going to meetings, especially this last time, I guess my ego had gotten so big where, in meetings when I wanted to share about my higher power, I wanted to be Mr. AA and tell you exactly what my higher power is and why it works for me, and maybe it could work for you too. And, throw that out the window.
Yeah.
God, I don't even know. It's crazy to think back that, like, I was sharing in meetings about stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm constantly that's my spiritual experience was definitely of the educational variety of where, I'm just kind of figuring things out, and stuff is adding up. And even today I don't have anything clearly defined. You talk about like a group conscious and defining love and trying to explain stuff. I'm probably one of the worst people to try and explain anything. Whenever I'm doing a training, so I'm like, just get it. This is it. Figure it out. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many things in my life that I swear, man, sobriety's so weird where, like, my life has been so ridiculous that, like, it would be ignorant for me to be like, nope, there's nothing greater than this.
Right.
And there's nothing, maybe,
right.
It's like, I have to believe that.
Yo, dude, I feel you.
Everything that has, every event in the most crazy way possible has happened to me.
Right.
And I made it through it alive for sure. Like, and I think that's so baffling. It's like, how could I sit here and be ignorant to the fact that, like, there isn't something more? And here's the evidence in my life to make it real.
Yeah. Man, I've had the craziest experiences that are just a little too perfect to not be acknowledged as being, supernatural almost.
Perfect time, perfect person there.
Yeah, or the perfect song on the radio, when you needed to hear the precise words that are coming through, and you've never even really listened to this song's lyrics before, and suddenly it's like...
goosebumps.
Oh, yeah, the goosebumps, man, the chills. And you're like, okay, all right, I'm listening, I think that's another one that kind of comes and goes, right? Like we're talking about, sometimes you got to recommit to your purpose. Sometimes you got to recommit to your recovery. Yeah. You got to remember sometimes after forgetting for a while, for whatever reason, that life is a game that can be played. It doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah, I see one of the big things for me is, I used to smoke crack, and...
Me too.
That was a hell of a life. But, I see some people out on the street today, and, they haven't been able to come back. I was way out there, man. I ripped all my hair out. I'm thinking that there's people living in the smoke detectors. I'm hiding in the dryer. I'm running down New Leicester Highway naked at 3 a.m. while it's raining. It's absolutely ridiculous stuff. But yeah, man, I see people out there, and they go into psychosis and they don't come back. And it's like, wow, like, why did I come back? I could have totally ended up like some of those people, and that's always fascinating for me to think about it, is the way that, like, those experience has impacted my life today. I'm for sure traumatized by some of that stuff. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just be like,
PTSD.
Like yeah. But that's always something to think about. It's like, wow, like, why me?
Yeah, I
Why
do
me?
think about that a lot. I actually was processing some weird, like, survivor guilt,
Yeah.
with my sponsor at one point, going, why do I get this? And, I have, like, very dear friends of mine that are still not getting it. He goes,
That's
we don't
something
know.
me and Jeremy used to talk about a lot, especially early on in the pandemic. Me and Jeremy had so much time together, and something in the morning had come up about, I guess, someone relapsing, and we talked about the differences, and we are not different at all. It's the same person sitting, side by side. There's differences of pain, but the opportunity is still the same. And so that's something that's like somewhat baffling. It's like, wow. And we're all, me, you, the room full of, people in the AA meeting, we're all vulnerable, just as vulnerable as the other. And so that's something that's like, wow.
Well, not knowing why we get to be the lucky ones that get to do this thing and be these guys today, I don't know, but I'm really thankful, I'm really thankful that we get to be in here talking in this crazy office.
For sure.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is today? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Let's do a Wednesday.
Do a Wednesday?
Yeah, let's do a Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll kill it.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.